become interested in the brain?
My PhD was in serum lipids in cardiology. I was headed to the golden highways of cardiology, and somebody introduced me to the missing link fossil. Sitting in my hands, and I said, "Are you telling me that our species has trebled in brain size in the last 5 million years? No other species has done that. And I'm studying cholesterol." And they went, "Pretty much that's it." And I said, no, I don't think so. So I finished my PhD and then switched to the brain. Literally, it was a very odd example of non-conscious processing hijacking my brain.
Well, in a good way. Thank you very much. Non-conscious processing. And where was this? Where were you?
So I was born in South Africa, and then immigrated to Sydney, Australia, where I ran a brain institute, a wonderfully privileged role. It was the largest hospital in the Southern Hemisphere. The CEO allowed me to bring people from different disciplines, across different disciplines, into this one institute. And then there were terrific collaborators in Washington at a project called the Human Brain Project with a friend of mine, Steve Kozlow. We started to collaborate on big data and share.
I'm being non-conscious right now. It's hard not to be non-conscious on a rooftop in San Francisco. Yeah, there we go.
If the non-conscious processing is the driver, and seems to be, and our biases are so dominant, and they seem to be, how do we genuinely add our choice into our lives beyond our genetic predisposition, early preconditioning, a little bit of early life stress or whatever, and neurons that fire together, wire together, and before we know it, we're creatures of habit, and if we're just repeating this habit, reconsolidating them. How do we change in a way? Why is change so hard? Because we fear failure. And so how do we better crack that code of a deeper choice of our habits and our behaviors? I would say that's one of the most powerful things that is going to emerge from neuroscience.
Yeah. Well, I figure actually forming that question alone is the start. And I think if more people, ask themselves that, it does bring up issues like free will.
Totally.
Which has always been bandied about as something that may or may not exist.
Do you think it exists?
Free will? It better. And if it doesn't, I don't want to know.
Okay.
You don't, do you?
Not with the non-conscious biases we have, no.
So you don't think free will exists?
No.
All right, so the illusion of free will exists.
The illusion of free will absolutely exists. The illusion of everything exists.
I know there's a whole new field called epigenetics, and I don't really understand how that would actually impact the brain at this point. Like, are we able to do things which actually change the genetics behind that are driving our brain?
Yeah, it seems that way. Again, a lot of these things are kind of like they sort of snippets. Good. No, they are good. Like, for example, when I was a medical student, we absolutely believed that the only cells in the body that never regenerated were brain cells. Like, you died.
Oh my God, I remember.
Whereas now neuroplasticity is the basis for behavioral change. So there's an example. And so we think our genetics are hardwired, but now the evidence is coming out that you can, to some extent, and same with neuroplasticity. It's not like our brain sprouts new neurons all over the place. There's some structures like the hippocampus and others. So there's a lot of the data is kind of, once it's found, has an element of truth in it, but it's the extent to which that really impacts upon the whole 85 billion neurons, 100 chemicals, and critically, the brain and body are one system. So you've got this massive interconnection between your brain and your body. So
I wrote a rap tune once. It was called "Maximize Mutation Pussycat."
Ooh, wow,
so
that's impressive.
I think that part of what we're talking about here is actually maximizing, to the extent, even if we don't have free will, maximizing how we can mutate and make this a better world.
Wow, goodness. You're revolutionary.
Another foot soldier.
Oh, no one advertised that one. People don't like revolutionaries too much.
No, I know.
I go to these conferences where it's working better now, but when I started, I'd go to all these different conferences. So that was my job, because I didn't belong to any discipline. So I'd go to neurology, psychiatry, psychology, and I'd get up and I'd give these talks about integrative neuroscience, and they'd go like, who do you think you are? Like, what are you talking about? So I published the first book on integrative neuroscience, and they accepted the book, but they asked me to change the title. because they said, sorry, but it doesn't. There's no such a thing.
Oh,
it doesn't
wow.
exist.
Wow.
And I said, I think you may have misunderstood the purpose of the book.
Well, you're a bold man.
No,
so
just a
go for
totally
it.
misguided masochist. Trust me, there's nothing bold
A
about this.
misguided masochist.
Totally.
All right, I think we got enough from this poor man. I think we've driven him to his wit's end.
No, you're just
Going
getting
confessional.
close to the truth. Yeah. No, who goes and tackles the whole brain as a system? You got to. It's not a sense.
Yeah, yeah.